Communication with your children. Is it a problem? So today you're always seeing kids who are being naughty. We always see, those kids in the grocery store who are throwing fits for things that they want or whatnot, and you just think to yourself, how does that parent their kid, or that parent must be doing something wrong, something along those lines. So I'm here to talk about communication. With communication, you'll better able to build relationships with your children and make disciplining your children and teaching your children right from wrong easier than if you don't have that good communication with your kids. So communication. I'm going to be sharing a lot of quotes today. They're all from a book called Between Parent and Child by Dr. Hart. He's a child psychologist. But one of the first things he says about communication is a child's feelings must be taken seriously even though the situation itself isn't serious. So kids will take a situation and everything about it is serious, even if to us it doesn't seem serious. So, for instance, if a little boy takes another little boy's toy, which happens often, it's a huge deal. The boy gets really mad about it and throws a huge fit about it. And as an adult, we think, well, it doesn't matter, just go find another toy. But to them, it's a really serious issue. So to deal with those types of things, Dr. Gannott says that we should be reflecting our children's feelings back to them to help them understand their feelings. So one story that he shares is one day a little girl and her mom goes in to her first day of kindergarten, and the little girl goes in and looks around and sees all these beautiful paintings that the other kids have done, and she asks the question, who drew all of these ugly paintings? And her mom gets really embarrassed and leans down and says, honey, we don't say they're ugly, they're really pretty pictures or whatnot. But the teacher, knowing how children think, leans down and says to the girl, it doesn't matter if we paint pretty pictures or mean pictures in this classroom, you can paint whatever you want. And so the girl's happy with that because her question was actually aimed towards, what if a little girl doesn't draw a pretty picture? What happens to her? So the teacher just let her know that that's okay. If you don't draw a good picture, everybody's pictures are pretty, and they like all of your pictures. So he says, when children feel understood, their loneliness and hurt diminish. When children are understood, their love for their parent is deepened. A parent's empathy serves as emotional first aid for bruised feelings. So our kids will come to us every time they get hurt, their feelings are hurt, or they get hurt, they'll come to us and we will be their first aid for them. So when your children come to you and you look at them and they're all sad or they're really angry at something, you don't say to them, you shouldn't be feeling like that. You actually reflect their feelings back to them. So-and-so took your toy, that must make you really angry. And then you can help them cope with those feelings and deal with those things, rather than saying, that boy took your toy, just go find another one. I don't know why you're angry, you shouldn't be angry. And then that boy thinks, oh, I should never feel angry about anything, and then he hides his emotions from you, and that causes problems later on in your life. The next thing he talks about is lecturing. And lecturing, as good as your intentions are, have never really worked. Your kids will daydream, try to leave, get really bored, fidget, won't listen to you, and you just won't get anywhere. And he says about this, the tragedy of such communication lies not in the lack of love, but in the lack of respect. Not in the lack of intelligence, but in the lack of skill. So when you're lecturing your child, you're not respecting them because if they ever like try to speak to you while you're lecturing, you usually tell them, no, I'm talking right now, you don't get to say anything until I'm done. And then they're not going to tell you anything even after you're done, because they're going to feel disrespected, they're going to feel like they don't matter. Again, they're going to be bored, they're going to just want to leave and talk to somebody else about it. So instead of lecturing, you can use that reflecting feelings back, and then you use your skill of listening. So you go and ask your child, so-and-so made you really angry, and then you listen to their side of the story. You listen to what they have to say, what happened, and then you can help them deal with that. You can say, if someone takes your toy, you can go find another one, you can ask them to give it back, you can ask them to share with you, or whatever you want them to do in that situation. But you never just tell them what they should be doing in every situation, because lecturing them obviously doesn't work. The next is the power of words. So our words can inspire kids to be better, or they can destroy. And with kids, you really need to choose words carefully, because it doesn't matter what you're telling kids, they'll believe you. Especially really young kids. You can tell them anything and they'll believe you. And that includes stuff that you say about them. And joking, being serious, they'll believe you. They don't understand sarcasm. So if you say, oh yeah, that was really dumb of you to do, or, oh yeah, you're real smart, aren't you? They don't understand sarcasm, and they're just going to take whatever you say to heart. So if you call them dumb and joking, they're going to say that to themselves, that they're dumb, and that's what they're going to go and think. So so if you've ever heard this saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, it's false. Because if you get hit with a stick or a stone, you'll get a bruise, it gets better, you forget about it later on. But words, you won't forget about. So I'm sure we've all had moments where somebody said something to us and we've remembered it even to this day, even if we were little kids, because they stick with it and they really sink in, and you may even believe them, and it may be wrong or right, but you remember those mean things or really nice things people tell you. So words have a lot of power for children. So he says, when children are in the midst of strong emotions, they cannot listen to anyone. They want to understand what is going on inside them, what they're feeling at that particular moment. So when our kids come to us feeling sad or feeling really mad, they're not even going to listen to you if you try to tell them anything. They're not going to hear it, they're not going to understand it, unless you're helping them to understand what they're feeling. So if you're just like, oh, you shouldn't be feeling like this because, and then you start the lecture, they're not even going to hear it. They're in the midst of their strong emotions, they're just going to ignore you, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. So really, they just want to be understood. So really you can just say, oh, I can see you're really mad, and if they storm off, you just give them a minute to cool off, and then you go talk to them, and you help them understand what they're feeling, and understand that feelings are natural, normal things. And then you teach them, you help them to understand what they're feeling and to know how to cope with their feelings. Okay. So discipline. There are many ways to discipline our kids, but Dr. Ganat says, in discipline, whatever generates rage should therefore be avoided. So if you're in the midst of a situation and your kid is making you so mad you just want to haul off and hit them or something, that means you should probably take a break, because if you're punishing them in that moment, then you're just taking your anger out on them, and that's going to teach them that when you're in those types of moments, it's okay to take your anger out on other people, and And so it's really going to teach them the opposite of probably what we want them to learn. So in discipline, we should really focus on teaching our kids. So not punishing them, not always hitting them, or spanking them would be a better description. But we should really be teaching them. So if you are really mad, you take a minute and you make a plan of how you're going to discipline them, how you're going to teach them that what they're doing is wrong without physically hurting them, to teach them that. Okay, so in discipline, we should be also praising our children. So he says, praise consists of two parts, what we say to children and what they in turn say to themselves. So if we want our children to grow up feeling confident and self-assured, we need to take every opportunity to emphasize the positive and avoid demeaning comments. So when you're praising your kids for stuff that they did good because you want them to keep doing good things, you should really be focusing on specific things that they're doing and really make your praise specific to them, because if you just have a broad phrase like, oh, you're a really good person or something, that's not going to really affect them. So really you want to be like, that's a beautiful drawing, you did good, staying in the lines or something like that, to where they're going to understand it and they're going to take it to heart and feel good about themselves. I also like where he says, children too need parents who are skilled and knowledgeable, who understand that the Paul method is as pointless for them as it is for a computer. So this is getting back to where we shouldn't discipline our kids in rage. So I like how he uses that metaphor for a computer, because a lot of the times you'll get mad and you just want to hit your computer, but you know in your mind that's not going to work. The same with kids. If you hit them, yeah, they're going to stop what they're doing in that moment, but they're just going to do it again, but they're going to be more careful about it next time and make sure you're not around to spank them if they do it. Instead, you want to teach your kids that that's wrong and teach them what to do instead of doing that wrong thing, and then they won't do it again even if you're not there. So spanking doesn't work unless you want them to stop in the moment but keep doing it later on. The last thing he says is, discipline, like surgery, requires precision, no random cuts, no careless attacks. So when we discipline our children, we concentrate on helping them with both their conduct and their feelings. So this can get complicated at times. So as parents, we should be sitting down together and planning out how we're going to discipline our kids. It shouldn't just be a random decision made in the moment, because in the moment you're probably really mad and you'll probably decide just to spank them because you want them to stop doing that. We should really, like a surgeon, have a plan and be precise about how we discipline so our kids will learn from it. And in conclusion, like surgeons, parents too need to learn special skills to become competent in coping with the daily demands of children. So it takes practice to be a parent. As your children get older, you get more practice, but the more you communicate with your children, the better your relationship will be and the more they'll learn from you.